Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's August 8th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you can see from our daily chart a big rally day. Opened on its low, traded lower, reversed, and closed almost on its high. And that's kind of what I expected to see yesterday. Didn't quite happen. Um, but this is about what I thought we would see yesterday, and it just didn't happen. So we actually made a new high today. We closed a little lower off that high from yesterday, but this is a big, huge reversal from yesterday. So will we go higher from here? I just don't know. You can see the trend line is still holding as resistance, so we're going to need to push through there and probably pull back and find that as support. Of course, this thing may rocket on up, and that may be a bit before we come back to that. Again, we were so oversold there that I felt like the path of least resistance was going to be to the upside. Again, anything could happen at any moment to send this thing reeling lower. So don't get lazy, or lazy is probably not even the right word. Don't get lulled to sleep thinking that if this thing starts rallying, because it's still, we're sitting on a powder keg, and at any moment this thing could blow up and this thing rocket to the seller. So, but at the same time, with it being an election year, unless something crazy happens, I don't think they're going to allow it to sell off, and I think we're going to rally back and retest these highs, or we're going to at least attempt it. Whether or not we can do it, we'll have to see. That's just my thought process, because that's how price action normally plays out. So we're expecting that that's how it's going to try to play out. Now, it may not do that. Price action doesn't always play out 100%, but it's probably 90 to 95% of the time it does exactly what you expect based on how prices react. And we know that there's usually going to be a retest, especially of a trend that's been up this long. I mean, this whole entire contract has been nothing but up except for a correction here in the middle. For the most part, it's been all up, and this has been the biggest correction yet. And it was a pretty good one, especially this last move. I mean, that's 3 days worth. I mean, in 3 days, we had a total of almost 500 points. Well, it took us how long to get 500 points before? Let's move this to the top here. Well, maybe if I can figure out how to click on it. There it is. So it took us 95 days to go up 500 points, and yet we dropped 500 points in 3 days. So it's a pretty good sell-off, and that's the thing about it. The big moves down usually happen faster than the big moves up. Not always, but that's not unusual. So, but there it is, big rally day. Will we get some follow through tomorrow? That's going to be the key. I'm guessing we probably will, but we might end up just staying in some congestion. I mean, this looks like congestion, so we could just chop along here a little bit before it pushes higher. We'll see. All we can do is wait and see how the tomorrow plays out. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. Take a look at the. It looks about like you would expect. It's mostly all uphill today. And here's the look at our high level look at it. You can see the big two-tiered channel that worked up. We got a break, couple legs to a new high, and then it found support twice. And it looks like we just ended up in a tighter, flatter range here until we got a break, and eventually we made a new high. We sold off, and then we started higher again and ended up trading even higher after the 2:30 hour. So interesting day. Closed almost on its high. So we got a lot of mixed trading in here from maybe 10 o'clock on. It was a nice uptrend there until, and it's still mostly up here. but there is some mixed trading here, and it gets a little harder to trade. So we'll probably continue to see a lot of this mixed trading as long as volatility stays high like this. But let's zoom in here and go through our trades and see what's going on here. And we did have a news item at 7:30, so I'll mark that off here. And we had a trend up in that news item, a break, moved to a new high, and then we were just working sideways. I don't see anything here. I didn't mark this short. I probably should have marked that green. It makes a new high, but it is a double bottom there, and it just kind of ticks one tick higher. So there's a good chance that's going to go lower. But everything's still above the EMA and is still pointing up. So, you might expect to get a scalp out of this. And it could reverse, but, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen at this point because this is played out over here. So maybe it goes short. I probably should have marked that green, but I didn't. And then it runs up. You get a close outside. And you actually get two legs back to the EMA. Now, by the counts, this is not a second entry. Notice there's a push higher there, and then another push higher there. So it's a first entry, second entry. So this is really like a third entry, but you can clearly see a leg down, and then a second leg down. So this is clearly two legs back to the EMA. We're looking for second entries that are basically, we're looking for two legs. That's what second entries are all about, really. So I like going long there, trying to get a retest. We don't get a big move, but it goes higher. It turns out to be a nice second entry, and then it turns down. I don't see any way to get short there. And then it's pretty obvious we're in a range after that. So we do get a break and new high here, but you can see 52.85.50, and so they do have matching highs there, but it's just a little bit of stem there that I wasn't crazy about. It is a second entry short, but we make that new high. You do get the break in new high, so we'll at least mark it green. I was a little hesitant to give that a red one, and then of course we bounce. This one comes up short. You can't go short there. We have a triple test here, but the signal bar is no good. And I didn't mark this one. This is only like 8 ticks. It's been a while since we've seen a bar that small. The problem is we're still in this trend working up, and so you probably want to wait for a lower high, and we just don't get one. Again, this one's still in the channel, but it is off the lows, and you could argue there's a triple test, but it makes a new low, so waiting on the higher low is better. But again, maybe you take that. I suggest you skip it, especially since it's all still in that channel. I think you're better off just to skip that. And it starts to lose some momentum here and drops on down, and it bounces right off the original main trend line working up through there. You can't really see that, but right up here. And we did get a break here. Now, I've talked about this before. You don't see it a lot, but every now and then you'll get a break there and during the overnight session. But if it's still respecting that trend line during the regular session, then just ignore that break. It doesn't happen all the time, but you do see that from time to time. So I just ignored that. When we bounced here, I assume this trend line's still in play. This is basically a double top, so you get a first entry, second entry, third entry, and the signal bar is no good, and this thing just rockets off. Now, it does have a good bar here, but I just don't think you should take that entry. I think you got to wait, and hopefully you get a higher or lower or something. In this case, you don't. This thing just takes off like a rocket. It does pull back here, and you get a first entry, then a second entry, and then it makes this higher or low. This looks a little congested, so I wouldn't take the second entry, but when it shoots up, pulls back, and tests that trend line right there, and confirms it again, I like going long there. You're looking for a retest on this anyway, so you still got room there to the highs. I like going long there. You don't know that it's going to really take off like this on a real strong trend, but again, I don't even know if you get a runner here. It depends on, you had to play it really, you had to give it a little extra room. If you played it break even, you probably didn't get a runner, unfortunately. And it's amazing how efficient this market is. They know where those stops are and how people play this, and just, you know, the strategy that I've put out there is a lot of people know that we're playing those runners at break even, and we're not the only ones that do that. So smart traders know all about that kind of stuff. So they come back and try to get them. The best trades just take off, but so it's always a crapshoot whether or not you're going to get a break even or break even plus one runner. Break even's more likely to get than break even plus one, but if you're willing to give, like if you can trade more than one contract, let's say you can trade 5 contracts and you can use one of them for a runner and give up one of them for to give your runner a little more room, you're more apt to get more of them. But you got to be able to trade multiple contracts to do things like that. If you're just trading scalps, or, you know, I don't recommend even trying to do a scalp and run on 2 contracts, because you could end up with 2 losers and only get 1 winner a lot of time, and your math is going to work against you really quickly that way. So you just about need to trade at least 3 contracts, but the ideal number of runners is 20%, and so you need at least 5 contracts to keep 4 of them as scalp and 1 as a runner to be able to get 20% to 80-20 scalp runner ratio. And that's the ideal. That's when you can really start to play around with it. Use one of your contracts to give it a little more room, that kind of thing. Or you get a big enough scalp and you only lose 1 runner, so it's not, the math's not working against you as much when you're doing just single scalps or 1 scalp and 1 runner. You know, the math really works against you there when you're trying to, and most people can't afford to trade much more than that, not in the ES, and that's why we have the MES, and that's why I recommend starting there. But anyway, not to get off on that tangent, but I haven't talked about that in a while. So anyway, we'll call this a failed second entry. I don't know if it breaks lower there or not. It attempts to. The low is 85.25. So it's a double bottom there basically. But I still like going long there. It confirms that trend line. You probably don't get a runner. It depends on how you play it. Runs up, you get a break, and you got to be careful going short here. You know, I thought real hard about that. There's you another 9 tick. Way away from the EMA. The odds are prices are probably going to come back, but you're in a big strong uptrend, and it's just not smart to go short. I wouldn't take it, so I'm not going to mark it. But it runs back down. You get a break, pull back, and a new high here. You can't trade this on the engulfing. You got to wait till it closes, and even then it's iffy. So I marked it green. But it comes back again and fails, and now you get this is a failed second entry short. That's what I call a continuation pattern. It's at the main trend line, so I like going long there. And unfortunately, you don't really get a runner on that one. It comes back here. Now maybe you call that a triple test, but it makes a new low, so it should have taken off by now on that failure, and it didn't. So it concerns me to try to go long here. It's still a possibility, but I'm not crazy about it, and I don't like any of the rest of these. And then now we finally get a break. Now we do get a nice second entry here, first entry and the second entry, but again, your signal bar, I mean, it's just so close. Maybe you make that green. If you got a good signal bar, I'd say take that trade. It's one of those where you get a close outside and the low all in one, but it's some kind of a micro channel, so maybe you take it. The better place is the higher low right there. Now, normally I'd say that's really close if it's moved too far to be a high or low, but we're in an uptrend and we just came off what looks like a new confirmed trend line. So we're probably going higher. And most of your smarter traders know that, and you see what happens, it takes off. You had a good mini enter here, but that's your more aggressive ones, and then your smartest traders that are waiting on the sure things wait for this and look at it go. And you get a break, a new high, pulls back. It makes a lower low here, but it still goes higher and makes a higher high. And there is a lower high here once again, but we're still in the main channel. Actually, we've had a break of the main channel and a new high now. So it almost lends to where, hey, maybe we can go short, but we look like we've confirmed this trend line. So you just have to be real careful here. This is rather mixed. Maybe you take that, but I think you're better off to wait. You sure don't want to take a failure there. Runs back up because you see what's happening. We're still running higher. And you just get a first entry there. There's a lower high here, but it's an inside bar, and you're working lower, but it's a lot of sideways stuff. Then you get a break, new low. It looks like it's going to go higher, and you get two legs up, and then suddenly it's dropped on down. We're coming off the high side of this new channel, so we're probably headed back to the main trend line, and that's exactly what happens. I don't think there's nothing you can really take short there, so there's no shorts or anything. You don't want to go short way down here into the trend line. Even on that second entry, I would not take that. Looks like you got just enough ticks, but it may take a minute, and by the time you get over here, then you're a tick short. So you just don't want to go short that close to support. If you'd got a little breakout pullback or failure under here, maybe, but that didn't happen. But quickly you try to go lower 3 times and fail, and then get this nice signal bar. I like going long there. Right off the key entry point, look how many times it held. And again, you can see it takes off. Boom. You get a break. It tries to make a new high and can't, and turns down. Again, you're not really looking for a failure here, although you have one. To me, it just looks like one leg down. There is maybe a hidden second entry there, but again, I don't think that's anything you want to fool with right there. And you get your break, 2 legs down to a new low, and guess what? It bounces right off the key entry point again. Now, this is a bigger bar. It's 24 ticks. But, if you can handle that, take the trade. If you can't, try to sneak in with a little better entry, but even the best you could get might have been right in here. And even then, you're looking at an entry. Let's just say you could get the best entry possible. That's 1575, and your stop would be at 10 1/4. So that's a huge risk to take there. So I'm just not crazy about it, but I marked it because but understand it being that big, it's risky. Because if you're wrong, you're going to take a big hit. There's a higher low, but I don't really like that. This is too congested. Runs up. You get the congestion right here, but it drops down. And you clearly get a second entry here. We'd already had a close outside a new high, though, and a lot of resistance there. So I'm not confident we're going higher here. So I don't like that one. It does end up going higher and giving you 2 legs up. So there's a nice second entry short right there. I like going short there. Maybe. It looks a little congested, but I still like going short there. And but when we get the lower high on, I definitely like going short then. And notice too, this was a first entry, and then it went higher again. So when it came back by that bar, it's a second entry. So you're basically taking a second entry when you enter here. And then you just get a second chance right here. And that's the better, probably the smarter entry. And it drops on down. And we do get a break of that new trend line here. but no chance to go long, and it just takes off again. Now notice what happens here. You do get a first entry, second entry. This is right at the key entry point. So, and it breaks lower and turns up. You got to take that on the engulfing bar. If you wait on that bar to close, it's 25 ticks. Even here, it's fairly big bar. So I marked it green. It's just a little iffy, and I don't think you want to go short there. You do have a break in new high. We didn't quite get to the midline. We are a little bit away from the EMA, but we're still playing this uptrend. That's the first break. We don't have a new high yet, so I'm wary of going short in here. Comes back down, we basically get a double bottom, and this is congestion. So this is like that little failed break out of the congestion we always talk about. And those sometimes, or not sometimes, but a lot of times, are important highs or lows for the day. And notice what happens here. Look at it take off. It's one of those important lows. And if you just catch one of them with the runner, and it just takes off. And then you get a little two-legged correction here. That's what you call a hidden second entry. Maybe you take it. I marked it. This is a strong trend here, one of those tight, strong trends. So we're going to retest that high most likely. It's not ideal, but there's, if you understand price action, you understand there's a reason to consider that one. And I think we end up getting an overshoot up here. I couldn't make it fit well any other way than it is right now. So to me, it feels like an overshoot. Maybe it's not. Maybe the channel just expanded. But I don't see anything in there to trade, and then it runs up. And then you get a two-legged correction. So that's a second entry long, and you would expect a retest to the high. And so I like that one. And there's a triple test here, but no signal bar. And it just drops down. And notice how it gaps right there. No overlap. It always happens at support and resistance places. At the EMA, trend lines, trend channel lines, things like that. When you see that, when you draw a trend line or a support resistance line and one of those happen right at it, you know you got it drawn in the right place. It's like a confirmation. And why it does that, I have no idea, but I started noticing over the years, and I've seen it enough now that I trust it, and I know when you see it, if it comes right where your trend line is, the odds are you probably got your trend line drawn in the right place. It's a good confirmation process for you. This is just the first entry, and it drops on down. There's a second entry way down here. You can't take that. And then it bounces back. First entry, second entry, but no signal bar. I mean, it's kind of frustrating today. It's one of those days where you just don't get any setups. You might look at this as a little trap here, but you can't take that on the engulfing bar, and then you're all the way at the low on this bar, and it's huge, and so it's 25 ticks, so there's just no entry there. And then it bounces. I'd want a higher low down here. You don't get it. There is a lower high here. If you had a little better signal bar on that second entry, I'd say take it, and for once you get a small bar, but the signal bar is no good. Comes back again here and tests it again, and you might say, hey, there's at least a triple test across there, but the signal bar once again is not great. It's just the first entry. I mean, it's another one that maybe you mark green. And I think did I talk about this one? I can't remember if we talked about that or not, but you're looking for a retest of this high. It looks like we might be over with this downtrend. So we could work higher again, and it's just a little two-legged move down. A signal bar, halfway decent signal bar. So I don't know, for some reason I can't remember if I talked about that one. And then there's nothing else here into 230. So a nice trend down here. I mean, we're getting some nice tight. That's the thing about these tight channels like this. Usually about the only opportunity you get them get to enter them is at the very beginning. So you have to learn to enter these early, and if you don't, a lot of times you get no opportunity to enter them. Now, if you recognize what's going on, anywhere you see, like here, you see a signal bar back at the key entry point. If you get a break above it, take it. Here you didn't get a break above. There's one here you could have taken, and it would have been a very nice move. Let's see if there's any more of these. It seemed like there was coming down here would have been one. Of course, that's after 2:30, but I just want to point them out. And you can see it would have been a nice move. Let's go look at where maybe another one is. That's a pretty good move up. But you don't even get one of those. You don't even get a signal bar here on that one. I mean, this has been a pretty good move here, and so there's one. Of course, you're going long at the very high of the day there, but there it is. We're looking for them, so I'm going to point them out. You're moving up here, and of course, this is going long right into here. There's still room to probably scalp out. This one's, I mean, this looks pretty strong, but this one didn't last that long, so I don't know if you'd call that one or not. But anyway, study those because you'll see what I'm talking about. That if you get those little signal bars, and the way to notice them is they just go straight up. They have very few corrections. If they do have a correction, it's like a bar, and it's usually got a lot of stem on it. And there's a lot of stems on both sides of every bar, and those are strong trends. And it's usually a real tight channel. This is the best example of one right here today. That's a really tight and strong trend. And sometimes they go all the way as long as that bar is or longer, and that's when they're really kind of nice to trade. But there it is, all uphill today. Interesting day. We'll see if we get the follow through tomorrow. I'm thinking maybe, but you just never know. And like I said, at any point something crazy could happen. The shoe could drop in the Middle East. Taiwan and China, Ukraine and Russia. I mean, there's just all kind of things going on. So the shoe could drop at any minute, any of those places, and spook the market, and it could go reeling lower again. But unless something like that happens, or something economically big happens, or some kind of you know, I don't even want to talk about stuff like that, but, you know, say we had a terrorist attack, some big terrorist attack, something like 9/11, if something like that happened, and it could at any minute, with all the craziness going on around the world, then yeah, the market could drop like a rock. So just be aware of that. Don't dare trade without following the rules. Always trade with safety stops. Always put them one tick below your signal bar. Nowhere else. If the bar's too big to do that, don't take the trade, because the one thing you don't want to do is sneak in a big bar and try to put your stop somewhere in closer to try to keep from having a big loss. Because if you don't put your stop below the signal bar, it's not going to be protected. They will find it. The stop runners will find it, and you will get stopped out 99% of the time. So people try that all the time. Sometimes people will, after they've tried it a dozen times, they'll probably they'll send me an email or contact me to verify it, and just don't do it. I can tell you right now, it's a waste of time. Anything you can think of trying, we've already tried it. I've already tried it, and I proved if it works or doesn't work, and so we go with what works. And that does not work, trust me, because I've tried it. Because we've done everything we can to keep our stop as small as possible and still be able to scalp 4 ticks. And there's just going to be some bars it's impossible. So you either have to trust your instincts really well, make sure your read's good, or you just have to skip the trade. Or maybe you drop a limit order in there within your range you're comfortable with your stop size, and hope for the best. Sometimes you'll get filled, sometimes you won't. But your stop always has to go one tick above or below your signal bar. No, if you put it anywhere else but that, unless it's further away, of course, and you don't want to do that because then you're taking more risk. But if you put it anywhere other than that, unless it's further away, you're going to get stopped out, and you don't want to put it further away. So anyway, there it is. That's how I saw it today. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.